Hey developers, welcome back to the programming fields. I'm Umesh Rana. In the previous video, we understood how we can bind data in Livewire 3, in which we saw the one-way data binding and two-way data binding as well. Today we are exploring one of the most powerful features in Laravel 11 with Livewire 3, that is form handling. Whether you are a seasoned developer or just starting out, mastering form handling is crucial for building interactive and user-friendly applications. In this video, we will cover everything you need to know about creating and managing forms with Livewire 3. We will set up a form with various input types and show you how to handle form submission easily. By the end of this video, you will have a solid understanding of how to leverage Livewire 3 for effective form handling in your Laravel 11 projects. So grab your favorite code editor and let's get started. In the previous video, we implemented data binding in Livewire 3, and in that we saw how we can implement one-way data binding and two-way data binding as well. Now in order to continue with the form handling, we need a fresh component. So better I will create a new component again. So let's switch to the terminal. So we'll type php artisan make Livewire, and the component name I will provide as a contact form. Yes, contact form component has been created. Now let's navigate to the code editor. Inside app, Livewire, we have the contact form component, and respective to the class, we have the component view, and currently this is empty. Now I will render this component in the welcome blade. So inside this welcome blade, previously I was rendering this basic form component, and instead of this, I will render this contact form. Alright, this is done. If we'll come to the browser and if we'll refresh, yeah, we have the empty contact form component. Now let's design a basic form in which we will have multiple inputs to handle the form request. So let's come to the VS Code editor. Inside this contact form and inside this contact form view, and in order to design the form, I will be using Bootstrap 5. So inside this welcome blade, I will import the Bootstrap 5 CDN. I will import BS5 skeleton first, and here I will copy this Bootstrap 5 CDN and I will paste it in the below skeleton, and also the Bootstrap JS. So after this Livewire scripts, I will paste these CDNs, and now we don't need this skeleton, so let's remove it. So we have imported Bootstrap 5 CDN. Now we can design a basic form here in the contact form. So we can use Bootstrap classes here. So inside this welcome blade, I will create one container just like this, and I will wrap this component inside this container. Now let's come to the contact form, and here I will create a row first. Inside this row, I will create one column 6 and then card, and inside this card I will create one card header, and then we will have card body, and lastly we will have card footer. And inside this card header I will create one card title, and I will provide the title as contact form. Okay, and here I will pass class as margin auto, so it will be in the center, and inside this card I will add shadow. Let's refresh this. Yes, we have the contact form. Let me decrease this zoom, and we can give margin from top. So inside this row, margin from top as 5. This is fine. Now let's design the basic form inside this, but before designing this form, I will open form element here. Okay, and I will wrap this entire card in a form. Form starts here. Now inside this card body, let's wrap some inputs. So I will create form group, and inside this I will create input type as text. Class will be form control, and I will pass placeholder as your name. Let me collapse this, and in the form group I will add margin from bottom as 2. Let me just copy and paste it, and it will be email. This will be phone number, and we can add label as well to identify the fields. So label will be name, and this will be for name, and here I will pass id attribute as name, and the same label I will add it here, email, phone number, and I will just copy and paste, and I will change this to text area. We will have this separate closing of text area. Placeholder I will type as message, and this will be message, id will be message. Let's refresh. Yes, form is rendering properly. Now we will add few more inputs as radio button and checkbox, so that we will be able to know how we can handle different types of input in Livewire form. So we have the input field as text area, and we will add radio button and checkbox as well. So I will add gender, and this will be our radio button. So I will set input type radio. I will pass class as form check input. So this will be basically our Bootstrap 5 class, and inside this I will create one label for mail, and this will be id as mail, and inside this label I will pass text as mail, and for this label I will pass class as form check label. Let's come to the browser. Let's refresh. Yeah, we have the mail, and similarly we will have to add it for female. Better we can keep it in a single line. So here I will add one div class as form group, and inside this we will have label as gender. All right, and I will wrap this radio button inside this div, and I will use class display flags. Let's refresh. Yes, and we can give some space here, margin from start as 2, and better we can keep this gender label in a single line. So what I will do, I will cut this display flags class from here, and I will add it here. I will remove this div, and here I can add some space from this radio button, margin start from 4, and now we will add checkbox. So I will copy this entire div, I will add it here, and I will rename this to newsletter. I will remove the radio button, I will change this to checkbox. Class will be same, form check input. I will change this id to newsletter. I will add label as subscribe to our newsletter, and even this label is not required. Let's refresh. Yes, and we can remove this margin. Yeah, this is fine. Also we can add one drop down. So just above the radio buttons I will create one drop down. Let's suppose nationality, and this will have select class as form select. We will have some option as select nationality. Let me duplicate this. I will add India. The value will be India, USA, UK. Yeah, this is fine. I will add ID as nationality. Okay, let's refresh. Yes, we have the drop down as well. So we have a basic form ready with almost all types of input here, and now we need a submit button so that we can submit this form. So in the card footer I will add one button, and I will pass class as btn success. This will be submit. We can pass type as submit. Okay, yes, we have the submit button. So as of now, if we'll try to click on this submit button, this is refreshing the form and nothing happening because we have not handled this form submit event. All right, so in order to handle this form submit event, we will have to bind the click event in this submit button, and we can handle the form in two ways: by adding click event on this submit, or by adding this submit event in this form. If you will come to the official documentation of Livewire, and inside this form section, if you click on this, you will have this submit a form. All right, so Livewire provides submit directive for the form so that this form can be submitted. Previously we saw and we already know how we can bind click event on the button. So let's try to bind the click event on the button here. So in the button, I will bind one click event as wire:click. Let's suppose I will call save contact form. Now we will have to define this method inside this contact form class. Let's define public function save contact form, and here I will add, let's suppose, button clicked. Let's save. Let's come to the browser. Let's refresh. Let's click on this submit. You can see nothing is happening. Why? Because we have added button type as submit. So this is expecting the form submit behavior. So in order to make this button as working, we will have to change this to button type as button. Let's refresh. Let's try to click on this submit. Yes, we can see this button is clicked. But we have to submit this form. So in order to submit this form, we will have to bind this submit event in this form itself. So firstly, let's remove that button on click event and let's bind this with the form submit. So in the form, we will have to add wire:submit and we will have to pass that function name as save contact form. Now we have added this wire submit directive in this form, but we have changed this button to type button. So we will have to change this again to submit. Let's come to the browser. Let's refresh. Let's click on submit. Yes, we can see when we clicked on the submit button, this triggered this function. Alright. So yeah, our form submission is working. Now we have to capture the form inputs. So in order to capture the form inputs, Livewire provides wire model directive as we already saw in the previous video. So for the every inputs, we will have to bind the wire model directive. So let's define the wire model directive for the every inputs. So let's start with the name input. So I will pass wire:model, and here we will have to bind one property respective to this input field. This input field is defined for the name. So here I can bind one name attribute just like this. Alright, and let's copy this. Let's add it for email, and here I will change this to email. Next we have the phone number, so I will change this to phone number. Next we have the message. Let's add it for message, and we have the drop down as nationality, so let's bind it for nationality. Alright, next we have the gender, so let's add it for gender as well. We will have to bind this wire model directive with these two radio buttons, so let's add it as gender, and we will have to keep the same as for this second radio button, because in these radio buttons we will have to select only one value. So either the male radio button can be checked or either female can be checked. Alright, next we have the newsletter. Change this to newsletter, and here we will have to bind wire model directive for this newsletter. So we will add newsletter, and also we will have to set the default value of this checkbox as yes. And if I scroll up here, for this radio button we will have to pass the name attribute as gender. So it will help to make a group of these radio buttons. Alright, yes, this is done. So in the form we bound these input fields with this wire model directive. Now respectively we will have to define these all property in the class as a public, so that when we will fill up the form and we will submit this form, the form input values will be captured in those properties or variables. Alright, so let's come to the class. Just above this render method, let's define variable as public $name. So these public variables would be same as we have defined here in this wire model directive. We have bound this input with the name attribute. So let's copy and add it here. Similarly, we will have email, so we will have to change this for email. Next we have phone number, so let's add it for phone number here. Next we have the message, so let's add it for message, same as nationality. Let's add it for gender. Lastly we have the newsletter, Yes. Alright. Now in the next step, we will display the captured value from the form. So when we will click on submit, that means when our form is submitted, we will display the captured value from the form inputs. So instead of dump, I will add dump and die, and inside this, I will make one array and I will display all the data. I will form one data as name, and here I will display public property name as $this name. Similarly, we will have to add for other inputs. Next we have email, phone number, message, nationality, gender, and newsletter. Let's save it, come to the browser, let's refresh our form. Now let's try to submit this form again. Let's click on submit. Yes, we are getting all the submitted values from this form. In the next video, we will see how we can apply the validation for the form inputs, and then we will see how we can insert the values into the database through model. And there you have it. We have successfully built and handled a form using Livewire 3 in Laravel 11. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and that you are now more confident in using Livewire 3 for your form handling needs. Remember, Livewire makes it super easy to create reactive, dynamic interfaces without writing a ton of JavaScript. And in the next video, we will see how we can apply validation using Livewire 3, and then we will interact with the database using model in Livewire 3 so that we will be able to save data through the form. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Your support really helps the channel grow. And if you have any questions or topics you would like me to cover in the future video, simply drop a comment below. I love hearing from you. And don't forget to subscribe the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.